Hello and welcome to the Full-Time Creator Podcast, where you'll get wisdom, tips, and inspiration from creators building their dream businesses. I'm your host, Zach Swinehart, and today I'm here with Kevon Chong from buildinpublicmastery.com. Kevan helps creators build online communities and products that their communities actually want in public. He's the author of the Find Joy in Chaos book, which is essentially a deep dive into building your first online community. He wrote it specifically for Twitter, but he's been getting a lot of feedback that it's helpful for all social media. So if you are like me and you kind of feel like, yeah, I know I'm supposed to, quote, do the whole social media thing, but I don't really know how to do it, Find Joy in Chaos book. He's been a guest contributor in MailChimp's Courier magazine, teaching about building public there. And he's helped over 5,000 students with this whole topic of building in public. And I think, Kevan, you said you've helped creators of all types, right?
Yeah, definitely. SaaS founders, but mainly I would say knowledge creator, people who are teaching other people, because I'm doing the same.
Cool. What's cool about Kevan, I'm really excited to chat with him because we both have this kind of like SaaS background and this course blending. And I feel like this build in public thing is really common in the SaaS space, but I at least for me, as somebody who doesn't use social media much, as the asterisk disclaimer, I feel like I don't see it as much with course creators. It's like a big thing with SaaS people, not as big with course creators. But let me get through my little intro. So he got into this build in public space in 2020. And you'll hear his story in a minute of how he got there and what for him was the thing that caused him to say, okay, I cannot keep doing things the way I was before. Something has to change. And in the time since 2020, he's gone from like basically 0 Twitter followers to 20,000. And he's built his email list to several thousand, helped over 5,000 students. So it's really cool. Last little thing I'll plop here in the intro is that he also runs buildinpublicsprint.com, which is a 30-day sprint to help you like essentially document 3 ideas and post 1 story every day. So it's kind of like, it's the next step after this episode to implement some stuff. So intro over. Kevan, welcome. It's great to have you here.
Thank you, Zach. That is such a wonderful intro. I feel so excited to talk to you.
Me too. So as I teased in the intro, we have this shared background of failed product first SaaS companies. And it sounds like, to give us all this context, you have a nice story to share. But I guess before we share the crappy story that led you here, maybe you could give me a one-liner of like what you think the big reason is. If you're to sell me as somebody, especially not somebody who's on social media much, if you're to sell someone like what the big reason is that they should be building in public and building a community, like let's say on social media specifically, versus just creating content, having a newsletter, what would you say? Like, what's your sell?
Easy. Basically, we've all been building products in our head, right? We think people need what we create, but the truth is never true. I mean, you have experienced that. I've experienced that. No one wants what we want in our head. So building in public is not just about showing your updates or journey. I think the most valuable part is you really get into people's head, because you ask in public, people give you those insights, and then your product gets better and better because of their input. So yeah, if you want to have profitable businesses, you have to build in public.
So let's maybe define it, because I think I like put it into this box of social media. But from what you're saying there, it seems like build in public could just as easily be, you mentioned a few minutes ago in the pre-interview, like running a live workshop or something. So maybe build in public doesn't have to be on social media, and it's just doing something live with your audience to get feedback. So how would you define, quote, build in public for course creators? Like what makes something build in public, I guess?
Yeah. So if you just look at these 3 words, build in public, like a lot of people would say is posting updates, right? I actually start to think that my philosophy around this is more like build with fans. Build with fans because obviously you have to be interacting with the community to have fans. So people trust you. But it's more about getting their feedback, getting their looking at what they're doing, observing their behavior, and then think about how to serve them better. So yeah, it doesn't have to be social media. If you have an email list like 30,000 people or 3,000 people, you can actually, build in public with them, ask feedback, ask open-ended questions, maybe do a survey, maybe pull in like 20 people for a beta, I don't know, interview type of round. But the thing is, the reason why I ask people to do it on social media is, why not enjoy that extra benefit of other people seeing your work? And then you can attract even more people to you. If you do it
Mm.
in like an email list or a private community, yes, you're building with fans, but without that exposure benefit. So depends what you want.
That definitely makes sense. And I guess it may be that there are certain types of things that would be appropriate for like a private community or whatever that wouldn't be appropriate for like, quote, actual public. I don't know what your thoughts are on that. We can dive in more later, but what do you think?
Oh, totally. I mean, that's what I do as well. So like I've been doing this for 3 years now. So teaching building in public, like 2.5 years. I definitely get to a level where there are different things I want to put at different platforms, like something more vulnerable. I probably wouldn't want to just put it on Twitter/X. I would want to share with my members first, because they're more, I don't know, like encouraging or tolerating my
Mm-hmm.
vulnerability. And to be honest, they are my students, so they're the best people to give me feedback. So I
Right.
definitely have like an auto filter now.
Yeah, that makes sense. Cool. And if someone's listening and they are already doing this like building with fans approach, like maybe in a private community or whatever with a beta course or a workshop or something, what would you say the biggest benefit to them is of kind of taking it to the next level and actually doing like quote really in public? Is it just new leads coming in? Like what do you think the big benefit is or benefits?
So the first one, I think we all kind of know, is definitely the community and the trust. Like if we look at all the big brands, companies out there, they are all trying to build that raving fan base. But more so, like if you look at individuals, like a lot of creators, YouTube creators, or I don't know, solopreneurs, everyone is trying to kind of double down on the fan base because they know that like you can spend all this money on ad dollars, Google ads, Facebook ads, but nothing beats having just some people shouting, "This person is doing amazing work." Like if you can get that, you don't need to spend a lot of money and marketing. Like people just come in. So I think we all know the benefit of that, but still not a lot of people understand how building in public leads to community and trust. And to be honest, it requires a certain kind of mindset because, you know, in business, it can be very straightforward. You can have an ad, you can drive people to a landing page and then sell them something, right? So I see that like sales oriented people or like transaction oriented people, they like that format. But for us, sometimes you're serving the community and you don't know whether they would buy from you, but you still have to do that. So it's kind of investing in the people around you. And that's why not
Mm,
many people can do that. So I think that's the primary benefit. I always think that is building in public is about marketing. But then the second benefit is accountability and confidence. So yeah, a lot of people come to me and they say, "Oh, Kevon, I feel like no one wants the thing that I'm building. So should I spend another 30 days on it?" And the thing is, they're just building inside their head in private again. So the way I do it, which makes me a little bit more confident, is that because I'm sharing the steps, I'm asking questions, I'm showing people the early version, these people would be like, "Oh, Kevon, this is good," or "Kevon, this is good, but I have all this feedback for you." The thing is, when I say, "I'm going to take your feedback and I'm going to improve the product," this person would be very excited to see the second version, right? Because they need what I have. So that gives me a lot of small wins along the way. And that is a very encouraging thing for me to be like, "Oh, I need to finish it so that I can give all this to the people who are waiting for it." And in terms of accountability, I don't know about you, Zach, but I'm working alone all the time. So I'm a pretty disciplined person. So I can imagine how hard it is for other people. But when you're building with people, sometimes you know that they're waiting for your delivery. Sometimes you know that, I don't know, they're waiting to respond to you. And that can help you move along faster. So that's my little trick. Yeah.
Yeah. And I noticed, at least for myself, I don't really build in quote public. And this is something I want to chat about in a second. But something I've noticed, like I run a community that supports students who bought our courses. And when someone gets stuck on a part of the course in the community, and I know what I need to improve, and I know that they're waiting on me, and I know that they're going to be kind of stuck until I can get them this thing, nothing's more motivating than that. You know, like knowing not just that there's that accountability, but also knowing that me getting this person the outcome I want is like, I need to do this thing first. That's like the strongest fire under my butt to do it.
Yeah, totally.
One thing that maybe is like me getting ahead of myself, because I still want to hear the story of how you got here. But my objection as we're talking about the build in public stuff is that, like, I don't know, I'm not really big on social media interactions. And I really enjoy the experience of building in public. Like, since running this community, I've leveled up so much. Our products have gotten way better. And I know that if I'd done that in a vacuum and I just tried to make the perfect product, it would have missed the mark and would be so good. But the thing that I get a little bit stuck on is, like, you saw some of my short videos that I've been posting. My attempt at quote doing social media is clearly the wrong way. But it's my best attempt, which is like, okay, I'm going to do it one directionally, and at least I've got shit going up. But I'm just going to like post it with buffer. I don't have to actually go on there. It just goes everywhere and it's sorted. But obviously, I don't get a lot of engagement. It doesn't build a community. And so when thinking about different styles of personalities, like I've learned in my community, for example, that where I really thrive and enjoy my life the most is when I can do live video coaching with people versus like having a text-based community. So what's your thought on build in public for people who like don't really like social media? Like, I just get bummed out when I go on social. I just don't like social media. What's your standpoint? Is it that I'm doing social media wrong? Maybe I need to curate my feeds better. It just takes so much time, and it makes me feel like I suck because I look at all these people doing well. And I know we have that flag talking about build in public, not just sharing how awesome you are, but like, yeah, what do you think for someone who's not a social media person to harness the power of build in public still?
Okay, let's split into two parts. First, I definitely think a lot of people have the wrong concept of what social media is about. Like, even for me, the reason why I created Twitter account in 2009 in high school and haven't used it since then until 2020 when I started is because I thought it's for, celebrities or famous people to like just influence people. And there's no part of my life that I want to associate myself with that. So I don't want to do that. But when I started, this chapter of building myself a brand, hang out with people, I realized that social media is actually just a technology. At the end of the day, it's a communication platform. So you actually have a choice who is around you because you have to choose who to follow, right? And I see so many people, like my students or my peers, they start by following, Elon Musk, maybe Sam Altman, OpenAI. And of course, they're influenced by those thoughts and they're distracted. And my advice to them is like, no, don't follow those big people. I only follow people who are my peers or maybe two steps ahead of me. So then guess what? Every day I open up Twitter/X, my feed is filled with just people trying out different business practices, people sharing their wins, people showing vulnerability. And I feel like, oh, I'm just part of like a private forum. And when people keep bashing that Twitter is this toxic place, I really don't feel it because I don't follow those people. So at the end of the day, I want to say, like, we have to correct the mindset that social media is not a fixed kind of place that everyone has the same experience. No, you can create it. And once you create it, you'll have a great time. So I think this is the first thing that I would say. But even if you try this and you say, no, I really don't want it because every day I have to show up and stuff, there are ways to tackle this. Like, I have two kids, two really young kids, and I live in a very different time zone from my main audience. So guess what? my tweets usually go out at my nighttime, 10 p.m. ish, 10, 11 p.m. Do you think I would be sitting here interacting with people at that time? No, of course not. So I schedule my tweets and I reply the next day. So a lot of people get this impression that they have to, be there live, reply to people right away. No, you don't. As long as it's an interactive platform, then just focus on the people, the conversations, and forget about things like notifications, real time. Then you'll be fine. So yeah. But again, if you say you still don't want to do this, then fine. Build with your private email list or private community, because the philosophy is build with fans, right? Not really like build with the public crowd out there.
Well, what I'm noticing, I'm wondering, is when you're getting started. So I know you started from basically nothing. Like I think probably part of my hang up with social media is, and I feel like you and Arvid are really good at Twitter, and I'm like missing the fundamental knowledge or something. But like, if I try to quote do a Twitter, I go out, I write a tweet, no one responds, no one sees it. I don't even know what I'm supposed to write in it. It's supposed to be like a tip, a lesson, a thing I learned. I get the sense from what you're saying that it's about engaging in conversations and stuff. But it seems like if you're mostly following peers or people 2 steps ahead, but the point is to be interacting with like an audience, but you don't have an audience, is it about like interacting in the hashtags or responding to other conversations on other peers things, or like what's the process for what you post, what you do, what you interact with when you have no following and no audience?
Yeah, the reason why my second free project was called Making Twitter Friends is making friends is the best way to start. And once you have friends, let's imagine what happens when you post. A friend would come in and engage with you, make you feel better. And now you're not talking to a wall. And when your friends are talking, this is actually real. I can share that. I actually look at my customer data. I look at people who are interacting with me all the time. Are they buying my products? And half of them are, maybe half of them are not. They would never buy my product because they're quite savvy in this way already, if they're that active on social media. But what I notice is that this is what we call community. They still help me share my message whenever I launch something new or have an important message. And then I get a bunch of people who come in and buy my stuff, and I don't recognize them at all. I read their email and I go to my ConvertKit, check out what they have. Are they my newsletter subscriber? They're not. And then I start to wonder, like, where are these people from? Then I finally get the relationship between community and customer. Like, community is half potential customer and half peers that will never buy from you. That's okay. But it's the community that help you push your message to your potential customer. And you need both of them, right? Otherwise, you cannot run an audience-driven business. So for people who don't understand this, they would think, I need to find my target customer, target audience. No, you need a stepping stone, which is your community.
And with the community, like if we're talking about the very first step, and by the way, it sounds like you have the little mini course at, I think this one's you have different free things. So I don't remember if this is the 5-day course, but makingtwitterfriends.com. That's where you've got this at. Is that the 5-day course, or am I confusing 2 of your things?
That's the 5-day free course. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So I will go check that out. Y'all listening can go check it out, makingtwitterfriends.com. But yeah, so just to clarify, if I'm getting started, are you saying that the like thing to do, in air quotes, is go find my peers or people who are a couple steps ahead, follow them, and just comment on their posts? Or what's the actual first step to even get to the point where you have that community?
Oh, that's a really hard question, because I feel like a lot of people have a lot of ideas, but they really struggle blending into their target audience. So let's take me as an example. 3 years ago, end of 2020, I was like, I have no niche. I have no followers. I have no friends in this space. How can I start? And I basically went through an exercise where I wrote a blog post every single week. I let myself write about anything. So I lasted 8 weeks. That exercise lasted 8 weeks. And I went back and looked at what I wrote. I think 6 out of 8 of them were about my lesson learned and failures, about entrepreneurship. So we haven't got there yet, talking about
Yeah,
my last chapter.
maybe
But
we should like diverge and give it and then come to here. But make your message, because this would be a weird point to stop you at. Let's hear it.
Sure. Where did I go?
Sorry, you were talking about 8 posts. 6 of them were lessons about entrepreneurship.
Yeah. Yeah. So basically, from the 6 posts, I know that I just genuinely love to talk about this stuff, right? It's very important that this is coming from my heart. So from that moment, I was like, I need to identify the group of people, not my niche, but the group of people, the persona, so that I have a place to start. And because I come from the funded, side of startup, I actually don't want to be in that space anymore. And I discovered this bootstrap founders, and I love it. I love that we can just build something with our own hands and just slowly grow. That fits my philosophy very well. And I just say to myself, let's just blend into this bootstrap founders community. It's specific enough, but not super specific. So then it's pretty easy to find people out there with this, characteristics. And that's how I started, finding friends and finding peers.
And what did the first steps of blending in look like? Or maybe if you want, what we should do is backtrack a couple steps, get your backstory, and then we talk about what your first steps were when you're building public. That seems like a nice flow rather than working ahead, going back, that kind of thing. So I guess this, dear listener, is what I said we were going to start the episode with, which is Kevon's backstory. So let's, I guess, just hear about what it was that caused you to say, okay, something's got to change, and I'm going to try this build in public thing. Like, don't have to make it long, like, 2, 3, 5-minute backstory that got you all of your SaaS failed startup thingies, blah, blah, that got you to here. Where would you like to start?
So before I started this journey, that was November 2020, right? So I actually spent 18 months prior to that building a software company. And at that point, I had investors, I had a team, and I was under pressure because with money, with manpower, you had to do something quickly. So because of COVID, we were, pivoting all the time. So my biggest lesson is that we had a solution and we were just so busy. Hey, can educator use this? Can facilitator use this? Can marketer use this? We had no idea. So it was really painful. Like, I understand the mom test, the book, like mom test about customer interviews. I'm a big fan of it. And I stay really close to our target customers. I interview them all the time. I try not to be biased, but still, like, it cannot work that way. Like, you cannot build a solution and then try to understand every type of customer. So when things are not going well, I said, oh, maybe it's time for me to do something else. My first daughter was arriving. So back in my head, I thought, I have helped founders and investor all my career. I have been a startup person all my career. Maybe now it's time to build something for myself under my own name. So then the theory of compounding really comes into play, same as how I would raise my daughter. So that was the moment when I said, okay, let's not build a solution and then find the persona, but flip it over. Let's find a group that I want to serve. Just get in there, check out what they're doing, and maybe I'll find something to build for them later on.
And I love this, and I'm totally on board. Sounds like we have a similar backstory of many product first failings. But just to zoom in, so you had funding, you were building a product. Like, did you guys have customers, or not very many, or what was the situation with the startup?
So we did have customers, but not enough to be like, oh, this is going well. If you're running a SaaS, like every month, if you're onboarding like 10, 20, 30 customers, that's nothing. You cannot support a team. You cannot support the business to be running. So clearly, like back in our head, we know that we don't really know which persona this product is for, and we're not able to find it in time. So that's why we decided to, at least I decided to step away.
And when you were in that project, you were doing the mom test even then. It's not something you learned about since that, right?
Oh, yeah. Cool. Yeah, I learned about the mom test like many years ago. So I've always been, the lean startup person.
And so I think that's a really interesting takeaway. So for those of you listening, if you haven't heard of the mom test before, it's a book talking about how, like, if you ask your mom if it's a good idea, she's always going to say yes. So it basically is about teasing out how to get actual good feedback. But it's interesting to hear that you've been employing this alongside product first, and it still wasn't enough because of the fundamental failing that you still didn't start with knowing who you were building it for. And so your decisions just became these rapid pivots and that kind of thing. Cool.
Yeah,
that gives us some good context. Yeah, go ahead.
I think that's a really important lesson any entrepreneur has to learn, because I often get students or peers coming to me and they often ask like, oh, I have this new idea. How can I build in public to attract a new audience around it? But back in my head, I'm thinking, it's going to be really hard if every time you create a new idea, you're coming up with the ideal audience and then go after them. For me, because I'm a one-man business, right? I need to make it easier. And the way to make it easier is that you pick one group and then you never leave them. Because to relearn a group is so hard. Like, I'm 3 years in, and I would say I'm still not fully understanding what these like knowledge type of entrepreneurs are doing. So you need like 5-10 years. So that's why you shouldn't be switching
totally
target audience.
I love this so much. So there's something I want to zoom in and get your take on, because I totally agree. And this same realization that you're talking about was a really transformative one for me as well. I have ADHD, and I noticed that I'm often steered by novelty. And it's a real big problem when you want to start a business, because it takes 5 to 10 years. Nothing is going to be novel by the time you are truly authoritative and immersed into it. And so the big shift for me was like, okay, dude, how about instead of trying to, quote, find your passion, you just pick something you're interested in and you just stay there. And that's just becomes your thing. What I am curious about for you is, let's suppose somebody is listening and they've always wanted to be a course creator, or they've always wanted to be a SaaS founder, but they're not right now. In your mind, is it more important that someone, I think I know your answer, but I got to get it explicit. Is it more important that somebody start in a space that they are knowledgeable about and experienced in? That's number one. Or number two, is it more important that they start in a space that they are willing to commit to be in for 5 to 10 years, even if they're kind of a noob? Like, even if I haven't started a SaaS, so I don't really know what I would talk to SaaS people about.
I think you cannot categorize SaaS as one thing, because SaaS is just software.
We say bootstrapped founders, let's say.
There's so many different types of companies and pain points that people are solving using software. So I think you need to pick something that brings down to a group of people. I always say a group of people because it's simple English. And let's forget audience, let's forget community, let's forget persona. It's just a group of people that has a common theme, like common goals or common struggle. If you can just say that, oh, these people struggle with learning, okay, I'm going to hang with these people. I find that that's the easiest way to just blend in there. And you mentioned, like, how do you start, right? Actually, the first point is just be helpful. Like, you don't need to think about what product to create for them. Every conversation in social media is just a point for you to help them, right? Like, people, when they open up, when they ask a question, you can jump in. And every time you answer that question is building one relationship. I actually started my journey that way. I didn't have a Twitter following, right? Guess where I went? I went to this forum called indiehackers.com. And there's a group that it's called Building in Public. I was like, wow, fascinating. Every day people are posting about their problems or struggles with building in public. Let me just learn and present myself as a learner and helper and help them out. So that's what I do for like a couple of months. And that led me to my first project, the free Build in Public guide. So helping really can help you build that initial community.
And at least in my experience, like, I feel like a lot of people aren't asking questions on Twitter. I feel like most tweets are like one directional statements. So how do you even find opportunities to help on Twitter?
I think if you look at it that way, then first of all, you need to find the right people to hang out with. Like if you're sensing that everyone around you are just preaching, trying to be an expert, trying to give advice to
Mm,
people, I feel like you just hang out with the wrong people. Like when I
mm,
started out, it was really fun because I chose the Bootstrap founders, but also these people are really open, really honest. And every day I just learn something new from them. So again, if you're experiencing that, I would unfollow a bunch of people and then I would go to someone like Arvid or me because we're kind of known for, being quite open about our stuff. And you can imagine that the people that we attract would be somewhat similar. So you
mm,
should like try to hang out with our crowd more. So a
mm.
lot of people would use like hashtag or keyword to find people. I suggest my students not to do that because let's think about like who is using hashtag. Usually it's just marketer. So you're just reaching out to marketer, targeting that audience. But I like to use people to find people. Like Zach, once I know you more, I would know that the people around you would be that type, and I would decide
Right.
whether I want to be near you more or less.
Yeah, it's so genius because like what I'm getting here is that the way I find who to interact with, like, so I'm like, hey, I know to follow you, which we should probably say your Twitter handle right now. Where can I follow you? It says Meet Kevon, right? That's your Twitter
That's
handle.
right. Yeah.
So that's MEETKEVON. But what I'm getting here, and this is where I'm getting really excited because I'm like, ooh, I finally have an idea of how I would even do this. I might go on your page and I might interact with you, but I also see who else is interacting with you. And then I click to their page, and then suddenly my web of people who aren't just like one directional, authoritative, expert douche kind of vibe, they're gone. And I replace them with people who are more collaborative and friends and stuff. That's so cool. Love it.
Yeah. Can I
It's
give
a really
you a
nice
piece of
strategy.
advice there?
Let's hear it.
If you come to my page, because right now I have 20K, right? I wouldn't interact with Kevon because usually people with big accounts, they have tons of replies. They really don't have time to talk back to you, that like interaction wise. So what I would do is I would go to someone like Kevon, but I would pay attention to who is around Kevon. And in making Twitter friends, I said, you want to hang out with people you want to hang out with people with fewer than 600 followers. This is because these people are also starting out. You are also starting out. You can be best buddy. You will be very active with each other. And that's the kind of people you want. Leave Kevon alone for a bit because most people with that number of followers is not worth interacting with. So that's my take on this.
So I want to ask for some KPIs of who to follow in a sec. But first, I want to ask, like, given that I'm saying I don't like when everyone's this one directional authoritative person, but then I think about all these short videos I've been posting. What are those if not one directional knowledge? Like those videos aren't asking questions. They're just a snippet that I thought was interesting from the podcast. So like, what's the kind of thing, be the friend you want to see in the world? What's the be the Twitter account you want to see in the world? Like what kinds of things would you like to see people posting?
Yeah. So Zach, I actually just went to your account. I think earlier today, to prepare for this. And that was a really bad example of how to use Twitter. And the reason is because, social media is about creating conversations. It can be any type of conversations. Recently, I saw someone who said, oh, I'm frustrated because I'm posting all the content about my niche, which is parenting. And I feel like I have other interests, but I cannot talk about it. No, social media is not about just posting about your niche or like broadcasting message. You're not a router, you're a person. So actually in my book, Find Joy in Chaos, I talk about this. The ideal presence on social media has a bunch of different things. 40%, I'll actually spill out the formula here. I don't mind. 40% should be building in public because ultimately, why are we on social media? We want people to have eyeballs, attention to what we're building, right? So if you don't talk about what you're building, how can people check out what you're building? So 40%. And then 20%, you can try to be an expert because these are the type of content that can be easily reshare, repost. And if you inject your story, like building in public, actually people wouldn't reshare because it's your story. But the wisdom kind of post is like, oh, everyone is like, oh, I have this obligation to share it with my audience, but only do it 20% of the time, right? You can still be an expert. And then we still have 40%. That means 20% should be supporting other people. So that's something that I don't see on your wall. Like if you're in a community, you cannot just talk about yourselves. Like if a friend is doing great work, if he or she is talking about interesting things, help them get that exposure or give them a shout out. So now we're down to the last 20%, which is personality. You got to have some personality. Like this is why like YouTube creators are very successful, because they really show their personality. But on a platform like, Instagram is easy. You're shooting yourself, so a bit more character. But on Twitter, it's hard because it's text-based. But I still say, I post about my family, my daughters, once in a while. Not in a way that, people feel annoyed, but because that's my 20%. And I want people to know that I'm this family-oriented person because that's my core value. So I usually ask people to pick 3 things you really care about in your personal life and just like bring it up once in a while. That means you have a very, very balanced presence and you're very interesting to people so that they would follow you.
The thing that I see on this, though, and this is a really great framework, thank you for sharing. None of these, though, like the 20% supporting other people, I would think that that is you interacting on other people's posts. But none of these necessarily like invite answers to questions. Like none of these like get a conversation going, it seems like to me, or maybe they do. Like, I guess I really liked what you said, that social media is about creating conversations. How do you make sure that if you're doing like, is the role of a build in public post to create conversations? Is the role of the being an expert post to create conversations? Like, and if so, how do you even do that? How do you word it to spark a conversation versus it just being you saying something?
I think out of the 4 categories, like the build in public 40%, you can definitely add a lot of conversations in there. So a quick example, usually what people would say, I added this feature. This is what I've done, right? Most people think that's building in public. But I would suggest my, students to reverse it. Instead of saying what you've done, why don't you look at what you're going to do, like, and then something that you're struggling with, like, for example, maybe I am thinking of a way to redo my pricing for my program, Building Public Mastery, and then I'm like, oh, do people like one-off pricing, or do they like monthly subscription? I don't know this about my audience. So in that moment, you can just ask this question. Hey guys, what kind of subscription or what kind of payment do you like when you're subscribing to a course? Just ask that. And people would very easily jump in because it's a 1 or 2, A or B kind of question, right? But guess what? When you ask them to pick A and B, people will elaborate. You don't even need to ask them to elaborate. So this is what I mean by like open up conversations about what you're building, because guess what? The best thing is you don't need to say, hey, join my Building Public Mastery program. Yeah. When you ask this question, the word Building Public Mastery is already in the content. So people are like, oh, what is this program from Kevan? And they will check it out if they're interested.
Yeah, that's a big gem right there. Like that's something, in fact, Arvid is good at. That's how I first found him, is he was just answering things in indie hackers that I was asking. And he didn't like directly self-promote. He was just helpful, but then I sought him out. And that's something I've always been bad about. Like, I'm like, I know I should do it, but it just feels like too much is out of my control. I got to tell him to go check out my thing, but then you just feel like you're being marketed to. So I think that's such a great gem. One thing I want to zoom in on is one of like my big objection. If I were to be like, okay, Kevan said my Twitter page sucks, I'm going to do everything the Kevan way.
I'm sorry.
No, I mean, I agree with you. But what my objection is like, I just feel like a freaking idiot if I go make a post where I'm like, hey guys, what do you think about blank? And it's just crickets. And it seems like that would be inevitable for somebody who's just starting with no following. So what's your thought that if someone's starting and they're, targeting going and participating in other people's conversations and stuff, like what should they be posting on their own page, if anything? Do they still ask questions even though no one answers and that's just part of the game? Or what do you think?
We actually talk about that, Zach. The key is you start by making friends. So you lower your pressure of, oh, I need to build an audience and blah, blah, blah. You just hang out with people you enjoy, learning from them, and they're learning from you. But you're still, doing my 4 categories, the 40-20-20-20 formula. The reason is because it's a chicken and egg thing. If you never show up, how can people follow you? You're a blank account. Yeah. And so you gotta just use the friends to kind of help with your confidence a little bit, keep you going. So then you can build up the right target audience day after day. So yeah, the lesson is already something we talked about.
Cool. And that one you go deep into in the makingtwitterfriends.com free thingy. Yeah?
Oh, totally. Yeah.
Okay,
I spill a little bit here, but if you want to know more, go there.
Okay, awesome. So I want to backtrack a couple steps because there's something we missed. So earlier on, I was trying to get a sense of like, if somebody could either pursue an audience that they have a lot of experience in, but not a lot of interest in, or an audience that they have a lot of interest in, but not a lot of experience, which would you rather see them moving towards? And I can clarify it if you want. You've got a thoughtful face.
This is hard because it depends, right? But I would say I'll follow the interest because I'm just thinking about my own journey. Like the reason why I'm sitting here talking about building in public, building with friends, not friends, but fans as well. Mm-hmm. Building with friends and fans is that people have interest in what I'm talking about. And then over the years, I'm like leveling up my knowledge in that space. And it's possible. But you just have to take a step-by-step approach. I think too many people would go like, I want to focus on building in public. Let me create a course around building in public. And that would be the wrong approach. And maybe I can map out the step-by-step here of how I approached it. I blend into the community, right? indiehackers.com. I created a free guide using 2 months of my lifetime. It doesn't have to be that long, but I chose to do it with the community. So it took me 2 months. But because of the success of this free guide, then people are interested. Oh, wow, Kevan can show me how to do this. And then I think about how I can create paid products to serve them. So this is why I choose like high interest, low knowledge, because knowledge can be learned, but interest is really hard to gather. And you want to capitalize on that when you have it.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. And the thing that I think about is like, I mentioned the ADHD thing. It's like teasing out what is, especially if you've got ADHD, like everyone who knows an ADHD person knows that they leave a trail of abandoned hobbies behind them. And yeah, I'm just thinking about this. Like, I guess it's the question of asking yourself, what things are flash in the pan passions, and what's something that you'll be wanting to still do for years? Like something I use as a benchmark for myself that it sounds like you would agree with. It's like if I were to run a podcast and I were to be asking somebody questions weekly, I get a certain type of person on the phone and I ask them things like, who is that type of person? Who do I want to talk to? And what's the aspect of it that's not going to change, and what's the aspect that will? Like if you were to say my niche is build in public, that wouldn't be a good choice, because build in public is interesting for now, but it's as a like stage within wanting to help bootstrapped founders. I'm guessing. Would you agree that it's about like the type of person, less than like the thing itself? That's the vibe I'm getting.
I don't quite understand the question.
Yeah, it was a bad one. It was just a really spiraled web. And basically what I was saying is like, it sounds like, yes, you are the build in public guy right now, but you didn't set out saying, I'm going to be the build in public guy. I think that's worth saying. Like you set out to say, I want to immerse myself in the bootstrapped founders world. Like these are the people I want to help. And then the build in public thing was like emergent as a consequence of you doing it. Am I understanding that correctly?
Yeah, totally. So I'll share with you an example. something I told my students. Let's just imagine you're a student and you're transferring to a new school. So you're an amazing chess player. Your old school mates know, but the new schoolmates, they don't know, right? So do you go to the new school and then you start telling people, I'm the best chess player, so I have to be the team captain? No, you cannot do that, right? So what do? You go around, maybe play some casual games of chess with people. And when people say, wow, Kevon, you're really good. Can you lead the team next season? That's when you become the chess player of the school, the MVP.
Right.
So exactly, like I didn't set out and say I'm the building public guy, but I just want to create a project to help people out. And people say I'm the building public guy, one of them at least. So that's what I see about like finding your niche. You don't find your niche, you do work, you help people, and people will say, hey, you found your niche, something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, this is really illuminating. So I'm trying to think of like good next steps to tie things up. I mean, I'll certainly be going and checking out your various lead magnet thingies because they seem awesome. So I don't want to like double up on things that we can just learn in those. I do want to know, in your mind, I'm looking at my notes of stuff I wanted to circle back to. What are the like KPIs for who to follow? So you said hang out, if you're new, hang out with people under 600 followers. Does it change? Like, is it as I grow that it should just be people around my same amount of followers? Or when you say a couple steps ahead, is that about their business or about their follower count? But yeah, what would you say the boxes to like run it through if I'm considering following someone are? What do I evaluate?
I would say, remember we said about the group of people, and I use the common goal or common struggle as like a guideline. So you can just say, I'm interested to help people who want to make money online. That's a common goal. I think that's fine. You can just kind of say that's your group. And then you follow people with like fewer than 600. So like we're all starting out. But of course, as you grow, I think that changes a little bit. Like, of course, if you're a couple years in the business, then you need to network with people probably around 5-6 figure kind of business. So it changes. But all my advice, not all my advice, but a lot of my advice are catered to people who are starting out. So that's the recommendation. And I think most people don't really know the steps to create a new relationship. So maybe I can kind of talk about it here. Like,
Yeah.
I wouldn't just like DM someone and say, hey, Zach, how are you doing? Having so small talks. I wouldn't, because that feels weird. So on social media, it's really easy to just drop a comment, maybe on Instagram or on YouTube, or drop like a reply on X. Have a few public interactions so that you plant the seeds in that person's mind. And then later on, plan a few times. And if you really have something more you want to connect with, then reach out, DM, and say, have a deeper conversation. Maybe ask the questions, maybe ask for feedback, or maybe help someone. And then if you really feel like the relationship is moving forward, then you can hop on a Zoom call. So that's kind of the step to build online relationship. And I want to talk about this because it's not intuitive. You cannot rush it, basically. I remember, I used to do a lot of these interviews, and I really want to get a big name. Guess what I did? I knew I want to get her. So 3 months before I asked that question, I showed up on her Twitter account, and I just like have a way to like visit her account like every week or so, forcing myself, right? And guess what? She said yes at the end, because it has been like 3 months. So you cannot rush it.
And so if you were doing something like that targeted thing, and you were doing 3 months, so it would be that you just try to do an interaction, add some value, leave a helpful comment. Like what was your plan? Like, how did you interact on her account for those 3 months? What did you try to do?
Basically, it's very easy to spot like who is just here leaving a random comment, or who is here really want to have a real conversation. So if, for example, she wants to ask a question, talk about something, you can go in with your own perspective. You're not like just like shining her shoes or keep praising whatever she says, right? You're adding your own perspective, because at the end of the day, people want to interact with people who are also like real and has unique perspective. So cannot try too hard, but also have that helpful vibe.
That makes sense. So this is all super duper helpful. And I'm just trying to think of like an actionable next step. So since you saw my shitty Twitter account, so imagine there's somebody with a crappy account like mine, or they're like not really engaging online at all. If you were to give like a bite-sized, not even like next step, but like, because next step I think would be to sign up for your free stuff. But if it's like one habit, if you were like, Zach, I want you to install this small habit and you do this every day or every week or whatever, and it's going to get you nice results, and it's not going to feel like a waste of time, and it's also not going to feel like you're having to spend 80 million hours a week on social media. Like, what would be the small habit you'd love to see a course creator install?
The most important habit is really documentation. So we don't remember things, right? My wife talks to me, and then 5 minutes later, I don't remember what she says. So if you can document, like, oh, I'm working on this podcast, I just talked to Kevan, and then maybe after this recording, you're like, I have this feeling about this episode, or I have this thought, write it down. Because usually what I do on a weekly basis is on Monday, I just look at my documentation and I'm like, oh, I talked to Zach, I had that feeling. Okay, let me share that quick lesson. You can use this process and quickly churn out like 20 pieces of content for the whole week. And then you can go back to your real work, and you can use the rest of your social media time to interact with people instead of posting. So I would suggest you to start writing things down in a very simple way, just a few words. Don't need to type in a paragraph. But more importantly, actually, Zach, I would give you the advice that maybe you can show your work building this podcast, because I see that you have a lot of amazing guests, and I am very appreciative of your professional process. So I'm thinking, what if instead of just showing the episodes when they're done, you are giving us the behind the scenes? And I can recommend you this way. Right now I don't know when this episode is going out, but basically, maybe for the next 30 days, give yourself a time frame, 30 days. And it's really hard to talk about a podcast because it's an ongoing thing. So it's not very exciting. But Zach, you can say, I'm going to have a theme for this 30 days about my podcast. And by the end of 30 days, I'll get 5 female guests on the show. So that's your goal. And you make it exciting because the goal is to find 5 female guests. And then through that 30 days, you're documenting, you're showing how you find those 5 female guests. That makes it interesting. So to recap, have a scope, have a start date, end date, and make it interesting and start documenting.
So you would rather see somebody logging something they're working towards than like, say I made the theme for 30 days, like my favorite things I've learned from guests about funnels, and I talk about past things. You'd rather see the documentation be of a future thing you're working towards, so that it's like happening now.
Yeah, that's the gem. Like, if everything has happened, then why do people need to have conversation with you?
Right.
They have conversation because they might give you some input for what's happening next.
Yeah, I love it because it naturally lends itself to exactly what you're saying, right? Like if I'm talking about the things I've learned, it's naturally authoritative. It's naturally one directional. If I'm talking about what I'm working towards, it's like we're all like part of a fun team trying to figure out this goal together. Like it's inherently different. So I'll throw a curveball at you. This one's just me selfishly asking for Zach, because I don't know how relevant this is for people. But I have like 2 brands, 2 businesses with totally different audiences. And I often get stuck on this of like, do I talk about all this in my normal swine sayer Twitter? Should I have separate Twitters if the audience is different? Like, how do you recommend people go about that?
Personal voice is the future. No, actually, it's the present. It's so powerful. We all know that, right? So if you have to choose, you have to use your personal name. But also, I think a lot of people, when they run different things, they want to talk about 5 different things with their personal brand. I don't think you can be greedy. Like, the audience need to have a very clear image of who Zach is, like the things that you're talking about, the interests. So I think you need to pick like which one you want to align with the personal brand. And then for the other business, maybe you have other funnels or channels or SEO,
like a
to
business account
drive
for it.
people. Yeah.
Interesting. Cool. So I guess the last question then. Well, I've got 2 last questions. Last question. Okay. Is there anything I should have asked that I didn't? Like anything you wish we had talked about? Anything you want to make sure people leave this with that we didn't talk about?
You mentioned about course creators. So I'm guessing a lot of the listener want to create courses. So I would say, if you're new to this, don't create a course right away. Like, I would suggest you to create a challenge, like a 30-day or even 7-day challenge or a live workshop. The reason is because the whole game around building products is that, again, you cannot build in your head. You need people to give you feedback. A challenge would attract people who are like more action oriented and more involved in the community. A live workshop puts people right in front of you. So these people will give you a lot of feedback and a lot of fresh understanding about what you're teaching. And maybe when you run this a few times, then you create a course. First thing, you already have a bunch of people ready to buy it because there's additional information in it. Second, you have a better way to teach it because you iterate so many times with live people. So that is one thing I want to mention before we wrap up.
Yeah, that was I can't believe I skipped that because that was one of the things I thought was super sick. So if you have a second, we'll zoom into it because I know that with your products that you have now, you launched like several cohorts. And it seems like if you're doing challenges and workshops, you don't even need a lead magnet in front of it. It could be the lead magnet. Like it could be the free thing when you're doing your first ones. What do you think? Like, how do you think if someone's launching their first thing, they should do it? Like, should the challenge be free just to get the first ones going? Or what do you think would make sense to do?
I have a lot to say about like free or paid. We can talk about for hours, but my Building Public Mastery program, it actually started with the challenge because I had no curriculum. So I'm like, how can I get people to build in public? Well, they have to do the work. They have to show up, right? Like Zach. So I decided to do the 30 days challenge, but then I slowly moved into teaching, breaking down into like exercises, like the little girl transferred to a new school. I have all those like exercises to help people like open up their perspective. But then now I'm coming back to the challenge because I realize the best learning experience is combining knowledge and action. So now I have both. But if you're starting out, my recommendation is start with the action. And then, probably go my way, action, knowledge, and then combine them. Yes, I agree with you. That could be a lead magnet itself because it can be priced low. I probably wouldn't do free because free just attracts all the different kind of wrong people. And you might get all the wrong feedback because they don't really care about it. Point. So charge enough to filter out people, but low enough that it's like a no-brainer for people to come in.
What did you price your first challenge at?
Oh, pricing. So my first paid product was a community. And I realized it is such a bad product experience when I'm just pulling people interested in building in public in a community, and I don't really know what to do in the community. So I shut it down after 4 months, and I switched to running a 30 days build in public challenge. So the first cohort, free for my community members because they're already in front of me paying.
Right.
And then the second cohort, $50, and then $100, $150. And then as I switched to the knowledge kind of course, it went up to like 400 and then 750. And then I have higher plans like 2,400 as well. So pricing should kind of go up as you inject more value in the program.
Cool. But it's really nice to have that as a benchmark. Obviously, as you say, we could talk about this for hours. So as far as a 2-minute rule of thumb goes, that was great. Okay, cool. Then final question, which I stole from Zach Spuckler, is...
Are you sure it's the final one?
I'm so sure it must be.
All right, let's do it.
Depending on the answer. That's if you say something interesting, then I have to zoom in. Then it's not a final question. That's how it goes. But nonetheless, what would you do if you were 10 times braver? It's not an easy question.
Wow, it's not easy at all. 10 times braver.
And the listener can think about it while you think about it.
This is hard. I'm not very good with this kind of like.
Yeah, I think I thought about it for
question.
like 2 days before I got an answer.
What would I do if I'm 10 times? And it's braver, right? The keyword is braver.
I'll give you an easier one. What was something you did in your history since 2020 that you were really, really, really scared to do and that you're so glad you pushed through and did?
This is equally as hard, Zach.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah. Okay, should I answer either one or?
Yeah, whichever one, or none of them. We could even cut this all out of the interview if you literally can't think of anything.
This is not a final question. We're at final 2. What if I'm super brave? I'm being vulnerable here. So one thing I've been thinking a lot about is, this creator economy is still very US centric, right? So I used to live in the US for 7 years in Boston area because I was going to school there. And one thought came about that, okay, if I want to play a part in this economy, then I probably should go to the US and hang out with the people more. So that has always been kind of my goal. And I see the value of that. So I sometimes would tell people, oh, I'm at a disadvantage because I'm not really based in US and with 2 young kids, there's no way I can go. But then I always get the answer or a self-reflection that it doesn't matter. Like no matter where you are, you can make it work. So don't make excuses that you have to be in the US to make this business work. So then, yeah, it comforted me a little bit. But if I'm braver, I'll probably just move back to the US.
Interesting. Well, this is good to chew on. I appreciate the vulnerability. And
yeah, maybe this will open up some conversations.
Yeah. And for you, the listener, like, what is it for you? I don't know. We can't have a 2-way conversation here, but I guess we could on Twitter. And I guess that's the call to action.
Yeah.
Kevan, this was super duper awesome. I'm scrolling down to the end here, and we tried to say like, what's the best next step? Because you've got so many different ways that you could help people here. And it sounds like if someone were to go look up one of your things from here, do you think making twitterfriends.com is the best next step?
Maybe I can make a suggestion like this, because I always look at it like everyone has a different way to learn. So if your favorite way is to watch a video or multiple videos, then I would suggest you go to Making Twitter Friends, because there's a video course that you can get. But if you say, I'm a reader, I like to just like sit at the beach and read, Find Joy in Chaos would be a great start.
And that's
but if you say, yeah, and that's the book. But if you say, no, Kevan, I don't do videos, I don't read books, but I just want some like actionable things, then Building Public Sprint is for you. So cool. I'm making it more complicated than it should be, right?
Yeah, but so it sounds like I've got the thing down for Making Twitter Friends. So that's essentially teaching you how social media works, how to actually have conversations, community, like the stuff we were talking about today. And you leave it with your first 10 actual relationships. And then Building Public Sprint is like accountability and action oriented. Every single day you take an action. And then Finding Joy in Chaos is like the foundational knowledge that's like really deep and wide. Is that right?
The community building part. Yeah.
Cool. So I think that gives a good framework of where to go next. But if you have to pick one, if you have to give a blanket statement for everyone to just go to one thing to type on their phone right now, what is it?
MakingTwitterFriends.com. Free email course done by 3,500 people.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for being here, Kevan. This was awesome. I don't know if I can say you've won me over on Twitter, but I will sign up for your thing and allow my mind to be opened to becoming a social media person, because it's clear that I've been setting myself up for failure. And as a relationship building tool, it seems like it's amazing and unparalleled. So thank you so much for opening my mind and all of our minds. And I'm going to hit this stop button, but we have to not disconnect because it's Riverside. So thank you so much for being here. See you around.
Thank you, Zach.
Thanks for being here, listener. Yeah, see ya. What a great episode, eh? If you want to pull up all of the links, transcript, highlights, that kind of thing, you can check those out in the show notes at ftcreator.com/episode 13. It's the word episode, number 13. ftcreator.com/episode 13. And if you enjoyed this, I would really appreciate a good review. It helps me know what I'm doing right, what you'd like to see more of, that kind of thing. And that's about it. So thanks for being here, and I will see you in the next one.